They must head on address this whole issue of politics of patronage. So the role of the churches then. I would like to suggest that the biggest challenges that the churches and the religious groupings face is that they themselves are trapped in politics of patronage. The religious groupings, the churches, Muslims, all of them are trapped within this paradigm of politics of patronage. That, in my view, is the biggest challenge. The churches and other religious groupings themselves are not yet part of the solution. I would like to argue churches and religious groupings are today part of the problem. In fact, I would go further and say, sadly, that the people who proclaim loud and clear for God and my country, they betray that motto. And the people who betray this most, for whom we had high expectations to express for God and my country, are the very groupings and individuals who are betraying it. So, there are those who say it loud and clear, regularly, but betray it in the way they act. The second thing that I would like to say in terms of roles of the churches is that there is actually an inherent inertia in the nature of the churches, the way in which churches and religious groupings think about their mission. There is actually an inherent inertia that seems to make it difficult and for some impossible to go beyond the nature of politics of patronage. Let me explain. When churches and religious groupings express their mission as spreading or expanding their group, clearly this is a propaganda that seeks to grow the particular grouping. It doesn't have to be, please understand me. But the way in which mission has been characterized and understood by churches and religious groupings has often to do with, let us grow the size of our group. I will illustrate. The contest over education in this country has very little to do with quality. The contest over education in this country has to do with which religious group has the largest number. Because I could say to you, while I think we can confidently say that about 75% of education in this country is delivered under faith foundations, sadly it is true that the failure to perform, and I'm talking about UPE as an example, currently the dropout rates for UPE in this country have reached a staggering 75%. In other words, if you have 100 kids starting in P1, only 25 finish P7. This is a hard statistic. Sadly, that is happening across the bar. Protestant schools, Church of Uganda schools, Muslim schools, all of them. The point I'm making is that these institutions, religious institutions, are not about quality. It's to do with who is in charge of what, who controls what. And to this extent, therefore, I want to actually agree that if religious groupings, churches, simply live to extend their groupings and the groupings' influence, it is correct to say that such objectives must be distanced from genuine, authentic political objectives. I think it is true that those who argue that we must keep the church in the churches on Sunday and let the politicians do their work Monday to Sunday, this kind of religion needs to be kept in the churches. This kind of religion needs to be kept in the mosques because it is a religion that simply has the objective of simply expanding the group. But as you'll hear me shortly, is that this needn't be the case. But I'm making the point, the historical problem of religious groupings in Uganda and religions in general is that sadly they are a source of division and conflict. They are part and parcel of the problem of governance in this country. They are part of the problem of the political challenge that I have been arguing, the politics of patronage. Therefore, if the churches and other religious groupings are to be relevant, if they are to contribute significantly to good governance, they themselves must be reoriented. We must call for a reformation. We must ask that the churches and religious groupings think beyond themselves, act beyond themselves. In other words, they must be seen to truly be acting for God and country. There is therefore a need for a new way of religious groupings acting. Let me give you an example. I think it's yesterday. I don't know how many of you attended the section of the celebration of the martyrs at the Roman Catholic Shrine. I wasn't there, and I haven't checked the news, but it was reported to me that our president pledged 100 million. But I'm also told that he also pledged 100 million for the Church of Uganda. That is true. What is not true? He didn't pledge anything for the Roman Catholic side. I need to check that because somebody told me and I really wasn't there. Yes. Were you at the Roman Catholic side?
The issue is that he had given 100 million to sort out the Catholics to help them. So yesterday he found the Anglicans worshipping in a bush and he gave them 100 also.
So he gave 100 previously to the Catholics. And now he is just doing a good turn. All right. I suspect that the next time there is a celebration for Muslims, they will have a right to demand their 100 million. I am just saying that's the point. That just shows you the nature of our problem. So, the challenge we really face is not what the churches and the religious groupings can contribute. Me, I'm saying the challenge that we face is the reformation, is the reorientation, is the ways in which churches, religious groupings can begin to think of themselves and act differently. As it is within this country that we have a dearth, we seem not to have leaders who are able to think beyond politics of patronage, whether it is, by the way, regions or religion or parties. Parties are supposed to be fora at which patronage is not patronage of individuals, but patronage of ideas, right? Ideology, ideas. You patronize ideas, and that's how parties are created. But you know, all our parties are stuck in this country. And where are they stuck? With individuals. You saw UPC only made a difference when Obote died. I hope we don't have to wait for others to die in order for there to be a difference. But that's the challenge, honestly. I see my friend, Honorable Norbert Mao, and so on. That's the challenge. Politics, patronage that is based on individuals and groups. I'm not saying that patronage is a bad idea, but patronage needs to be on ideas, on ideals that the country can be mobilized around. And I'm saying that the churches themselves don't seem to have this ideological or theological basis. And there therefore needs to be a new cadre of leaders in the churches who are able to say, God and country first. For now, we don't seem to have it. So therefore, what is the future? The churches, like we must elsewhere in this country, we need to do a crusade to identify, to mobilize a new cadre of leaders who will seek a different kind of patronage, the patronage of ideals that will reflect country first. That we can honestly say, churches, religious groupings that will confidently say, for God and my country. currently, as I said, the current leadership, and I really mean bishops, archbishops, sheikhs, and others, I am included among those, sadly, we are not providing that leadership. Sadly, the only way we seem to be connecting with the political process in this country is by being ourselves patronized. Now, I think that there is hope in two platforms that have been created that could begin to move the religious leadership into ways in which they can think beyond themselves. And I simply want to say that there is hope represented in networks such as Uganda Joint Christian Council and IRCU. These are platforms for acting together. And I think that these platforms reflect something of a future. Hopefully we can see more of acting together. Now, the tragedy often is, of course, is that when we meet in these networks, we then go back and do our things within our groupings. The sustainability of continuing to work together. But I'm really saying that these networks seem to represent something of a future that these groupings can share together. And I think that acting in these spaces might give us ways in which the churches and religious groupings could contribute more meaningfully to governance in this country. I thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Bishop Zach. I think Bishop Zach has framed the question very well. He has defined it, I mean, at least for his purposes, quite narrowly so that we don't beat about the bush. He has identified the main challenge as a challenge of patronage, and he has included the church as part of that problem. And our challenge here, and going forward, I guess, according to him, is how do we make the church more accountable? How do we make the church pursue a patronage of ideals? Before I open up the debate to the House, let me invite the elders up here to give a quick response. Okay, before that, I'm advised, that's the problem of coming late. I'm advised that Sheila was supposed to do a quick response before the elders. Sheila, please invite the elders to give a quick response.
Thank you very much, Peter. I think you will still invite the elders to give a response. For me, mine was to respond to Bishop Zach's presentation. Thank you very much, Bishop. Protocol observed of all the stone members. I think I am short of words because I kept waiting and waiting for the role of the church in building good governance for 2011, and it wasn't coming, and I kept saying, maybe, am I missing the point? I'm seeing the church, as Bishop clearly says, it's part of the problem we are facing, because either it has not defined its role until we come out as Ugandans and not only reform our politicians, but also go into the churches and reform the leaders in the churches, since they are part of the problem. So I had a problem really getting what the bishop was saying on the role, because it doesn't come out. So I'm stuck. I don't know what to say then. When we look at our churches, last week, I think for the whole week, the Church of Uganda was inviting all Christians to go to Namugongo for the celebrations. I kept listening to that announcement on radio as I was driving. You come, please, there's going to be the guest of honor is His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, and what. And I was saying, isn't Museveni a Protestant? Why should he be invited, or an Anglican? Why should he be invited and be told that he's a guest of honor? Yesterday when I listened to the news, I had the 100 million. So I concluded that was the catch. Get the president, get the 100 million, and we have it. So to me, I think the church, with all due respect, every Sunday I have to go to church and on other days. But I'm really disappointed that it is not clearly coming out to offer leadership, to offer a solution. And now Bishop Zach confirms it and says, actually, we don't have that solution. We are unable. You Ugandans, you are at the mercy of your politicians and at the mercy of the church. So I don't know whether I can talk more about it. The politics of patronage, it is clear. Our churches, corruption is within the churches. And also other religious groupings. The Muslims, we've seen the wrangles going on. Within the Catholic Church, they are not clean either. The Anglican Church, the same. The Pentecostals, I don't know whether I should say it's worse, because I've never understood them. When we look at all these issues in the APRM, I say, where is the church? Population growth, we are told, go ahead, produce as many as you want. Lack of institutions. When I was growing up, I thought the church was the most organized institution. Now I wonder when I see the bishops bickering, and it goes beyond and it goes into the papers. We can't touch the churches. At least we can touch the leaders. We can go out and vote them out come 2011. But for church leaders, we can't vote them out. We have you, and we would want you to contribute that solution. So I thank you so much. Peter, invite the other church leaders and we hear from them.
Thank you, Sheila. I'm sure by the time we are done, Sheila will be unstuck. I'll start with the professor for a quick rejoinder before the check. And please, you have only 3 minutes to respond.
It will be very unfair for 3 minutes. Bear with me. I'm looking at the religious groupings in 3 periods. One, the Orthodox period, meaning not Peter Matov, the Orthodox, but the original religious groupings, which did a very good work. The contemporary groupings, which tried and was confused up to now. And the current one is the worst. The current one is confused in politics. What should the church and mosques do? Our concern is to sensitize and conscientize our leaders, our Christians whenever they are. We have to introduce them, we have to teach them the following. Since I don't have enough time, go to Makerere University, look for the book called Interpersonal Relationship and Decentralization by Peter Matovu. You will find all the answers. Religious leaders are trying their level-based through the UJCC, but UJCC is as confused as you can think of. Then what about the Interreligious Council? Worst. So religious leaders, it's the only religious leaders, by the way. The UJCC is of Roman Catholics, Anglican, and Orthodox, but confused. So what we need is to help the people running it to change. The Interreligious Council includes the Seventh-day Adventists, the Roman Catholics, the Muslims, and so on and so forth. Very confused. Now, what can we do? Let us restore, clinically, restore the dissociated mind of Ugandans. We are all confused in politics, UPC, DP, CP, whatever you can think of, movement, everybody is confused. Sincerely, we are living in a world which is abnormal. And we need psychiatrists, we need psychologists, we need everybody to treat. This is my submission. We need to introduce psychodynamics. By psychodynamics, I mean the following. The interpersonal relationship. Am I related to Muslims? Faithfully. Or bluffing? Am I related to Church of Uganda? Am I related to Catholic? Am I related to Seventh-day? We should relate to one another. And I quote, let us be one as we were from the beginning. That is St. John chapter 17. You will see it there. of course, Bishop Zach, as he tried, but as a bishop, he did not want to commit himself by saying all the churches and mosques leaders are confused. But I'm saying it because I want changes. We are just saying everything is good, everything is nice. But I'm saying things are worsening day and night. Orthodox Church has not been mentioned in corruption. It is among the top, I'm telling you. Everybody, young and old, wants to eat. Our concern, sir, Chair, is to promote fundamental changes. Let's go back to the Orthodox approach. Don't misquote me in Orthodox. Orthodox means the original. Not Peter Matova Orthodox, what? No. But the original. You remember the original leaders? They were not politically oriented at all. Their concern was to make people they were leading very good people before God. But today, that one is not there. 3 minutes. I would have said more, but I'm telling you, we are confused, we are mentally sick, our minds are dissociated. That is a clinical word. Dissociation means our minds are not within our mind, our heads. Therefore, what can we do? Restore the dissociated mind. Thank you. Thank you, Bishop.
Thank you, Prof. So far, we are hearing some agreement of sorts, and that is on the question of the churches, religious groupings being part of the problem. The description is different. Professor uses confusion or confused. Bishop Zach uses the question of patronage being part of that. Let's hear from Mr. Aman Sulaiman Nasimwe from the Supreme Council.
Thank you very much. I think when we look at